Hi, Chris.
Christina, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Amazing. I love how your wind's blowing back like you should be laying on the top or the front of a Camaro or something in a two piece. Like, grrr.
Well, it was a beach day down here. I don't know how the weather is up there, but
It's
it's amazing.
80. The people in
85
San
here.
Luis Obispo are wishing that they had rain, and I'm like, nope. This is SoCal weather. We're coming home.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody's losing their shit here. There's no parking spots outside because we live at the beach. Everyone's just on the coast.
So Robin is joining us from Chicago. We're not going to ask you about the weather there per se.
Oh, please don't.
That would be cruel. What a terrible show it would be. Is like, tell us about your weather.
Let's go down your polar vortex. Um, so Robin Samples, I met in Chicago, gosh, 9 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been a while. And Meredith, I think the studio just opened, and where we lived, Meredith was, looking for a membership or something along those lines. So I remember running through this fence between the back of our factory lofty sort of thing into her studio, and I said hi, and the way that Robin looked at me, she's like, hi, and just smiled, and I was like, oh, okay. This is going to be amazing. And what Robin has created as the founder and owner of Bare Feet Power Yoga in Chicago is far more than a yoga studio. That was the first yoga studio that I had ever gone into more than 2 or 3 times, and it just very much feels like home. So every time you go back there, you can just feel the love and see the bubbles, and there's more on that later. But then every studio that I've been into thereon is often compared to that, but it's a very special community. So beyond that, I think, Robin, I think of her as, a leader in her community above and beyond anything else. She's a wonderful son. She has this really cool balance of divine masculine and divine feminine. And it's just a joy anytime when I'm able to just be of service. We talk, we connect. We'll send text messages like, hey, I was just thinking about you. It's like, yeah. So like now it's like, yeah, of course. Right. The vibration is certainly there. So thank you for making time and joining us on what could be, Christina, the inaugural Soul Dive podcast.
Yeah. The Soul Dive podcast. Well, first I do want to say to Robin, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to go ahead and start. So I think we should.
Let's just start.
All right.
Wonderful.
I already got stuff right off the bat. I don't know really anything about you. All I know is that you've shared that you have a kid, and now I know you live in Chicago and you do own a yoga studio. So a lot of this will make a little bit more sense to me as the reader. So I got that you're going to have another kid. I don't know if that's happening, but it's like you kind of want to. It's like once you had one, it's like, oh, I kind of like being this mom thing, and you kind of want to have another one. And you have a boy right now.
I do have a boy.
Yeah. You're just like kind of ready. But anyway, I just saw maybe another kid in your future. Yeah, your natural mom, definitely something that you were born to do, but kind of in the mom role, it kind of extends out to a lot of the other things that you do. You're kind of a nurturer, and you're a facilitator. And I don't know if you already do. I saw kind of like you're doing classes for kids or something, but not like particularly yoga, but maybe Montessori kind of style, physical, like, I don't know what it is. Don't know if you like do kids yoga, but I heard like kids empowerment. And yeah, I that's what I got right off the bat.
Wow. What I find really fascinating about what you just said is the last thing about kid empowerment. I just made a vision board like a week ago and cut out those exact words, and I don't know why. So
yeah, I think that might be like a new venture, like a new little branch on your tree that you do in your community is something along lines of kid empowerment. And what that looks like right now, it's like movement, but education with the movement. That's why maybe it's like a Montessori, Montessori is like the physical learning of things. Instead of like reading something, you're actually physically encountering it, something physical and something with motion. And I feel it's a lot of joy in you and it's a lot of joy in them. So it is going to require some tapping into your inner child, which you can kind of do pretty easily if you just envision how your kid plays currently and how blissful your kid could get in certain activities. That's how blissful and how with abandon that you would be in the activity to really connect. But I mean, I'm getting that you're absolute natural anyway. So, because I'm asking what specifically would the kid empowerment thing, and I'm not really getting anything exactly, because I think that's part of the journey of it, is that the creation, the imagination, the ideas, the little discoveries that you make that lead you on is part of the preparation for what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Chris.
Wow. Yeah, no. So this is interesting for me because I think I've been in Robin's records as much as anyone else's. So I may just take like a co-pilot role in this because it's just fascinating what comes up. Usually with Robin, I get like bubbles, and they're very happy bubbles, right? So in this case, I mean, that's just what I said, is just kind of let you run with it. And I'll pitch in wherever need be. So Robin, what questions do you have for us?
I would love to understand a little more, and maybe there's not a ton of information that you can give because it sounds like this is something for me to discover. And I've felt for a while that I'm on the edge of this like transition in my life in some way, moving into some new space. And I don't have a ton of clarity on what that exactly looks like. And I'm trying to just practice patience and go with the flow and see where things take me in this life. And so if you have any direction or guidance of things to tap into, whether it is related to kids or otherwise, I would love to know what else you're kind of seeing just for me and my future, in particular when it comes to my work.
So when I went into your records, and I didn't quite understand what it meant, but it showed you wearing almost like you're out on a date. So like, like a dress, but I didn't see anyone with you. And it was as if you're walking down a hallway in a gallery, and you're looking at pieces of art, different sizes, shapes, frames. I didn't look at the images in the frames, but I'll go back in and check on both sides, and being drawn to certain things, not quite understanding others, and just seeing what catches your eye. So it feels like right now, and this was before the vision board, but it makes a little bit more sense, is that like if it catches your eye, you're just kind of parking it into your own personal vision board or Pinterest, like sort of your mental Pinterest, if you will, and just seeing what inspires you. And so it's like you're collecting things right now in this long winter, if you will, that will inspire you to create. And I'll go back and see if I can pick up on some of the images. Christina?
Yeah, so I have a question though. So are you trying to move space, or are you just talking about the space that you keep currently?
I think more of just the space that I keep currently. I'm not thinking physical space, more, unless that's what's coming up for you.
It's not. That's why I was clarifying. I was like, I don't see you moving. So get that out of the way. But right before you said space, I wrote down space. So here are some things that I got. I got a lot of little glimpses. One is like keeping the purity and simplicity of play, because now everybody's kind of gotten away from that. And so I don't know how old you are, but there used to be this TV show on the Disney Channel in the 80s called You and Me Kid. And it was either the mom or the dad and the kid. And they would do these like different exercises together, physical exercises using each other's bodies. So I saw like glimpses of kind of parent-child or guardian-child kind of things. where, you know, you're leading them through maybe friend partnered yoga, or just exercises where they both have to rely on each other and be physical and touch. So I'm seeing like touch is very important. Also seeing like eye contact is very important through like exercises. I don't know anything about what you do, like yoga or anything. So there might be a word for all of this, but I'm just trying to describe it from someone that doesn't know. I also saw some musicality about it, where if you've ever been to like a birthday party of a kid and they just play like some sort of music where just everybody just starts getting down, you know, that's like closer to the spirit, right? You know, and so I see that you like kids, I see kids responding to some sort of musicality, but also like I got body as the instrument. So whether or not they are like pretending that their body is the actual instrument, or they're moving and manipulating their bodies, or actually playing an instrument with their body, or like a drum, or like a drum circle or something like that. I saw a little glimpse of that, but I'm kind of seeing like all kinds of possibilities. So, and then I'm getting as early as this spring, you might try something like really fast, like as things shift. And I'm feeling like for you and a lot of people, a lot of shifting has already kind of happened maybe in the last week or two. So I feel like it's already on your mind that you do maybe want to try something, and you might get together a little test group and say, come on in, let's have a good time. And then they all come in and you kind of see how it works. And you're also like a energy feeler. So you can kind of feel the energy and the vibe of the group and then make necessary adjustments. You do have that energetic reading capability and sophistication that you'd be able to do that, no problem.
What you're just saying feels really relevant to me now that you break it down a little bit more. I am a yoga teacher, but I've been exploring a lot more like ecstatic movement, and I've been doing it more for adults. And now Chicago's in a lockdown and I haven't been able to do it because for me, it's very much like an in-person experience to be had versus a virtual one. But I did have a friend of mine bring their kid to one of the sessions and she was like, my daughter loved it. She's like, I want to do that again. And so now that you're talking about this, it's making a bit more sense of like the direction that perhaps I need to explore when it comes to this sort of movement and who it's perhaps like designed for. So thank you. That's really relevant.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
So are you like kind of dating someone right now?
Yes,
okay.
I think so.
Okay. And do you play basketball? Did you play basketball at all growing up or anything like that?
I never did. No, I mean, I think I played for like a year in junior high, but I wouldn't really count that. I was a swimmer.
Okay. Because what I'm seeing, and I'm trying to make sense of this, is well, just stand up and do it. So like, I'm wearing shorts. So like you have a smile on your face and you've got the ball right here and you're dribbling and you're like challenging someone, but in a very playful way. And it's not competitive. It's meant as a way to engage someone. So it's almost as if, and I can't see who you're playing. So it's kind of like faceless, nameless, just like dark space, not dark in that way, but just, it's to be named. And it's like you're engaging and trying to encourage them to challenge you. It's like, don't treat me like a girl, like meet me here. Like I'll wait for you. I'll help you get to here. So there's this potential of you with someone, like maybe they're just a little bit intimidated, but they're willing to engage and get there really quick. And it just seems like a really fun, playful relationship, and using physical activity as a way to spend and share time. So I'm saying that. And what does that mean to you?
I like that a lot. I think that, again, feels very relevant to me. There is someone that I've been spending time with, and I hesitate, like dating, I think is the perfect word, right? And you and I have talked a bit about that in the past. I am exploring like that space for myself, and there's someone that I feel a pull towards, and it is really playful. It's really light. It's a dynamic that I've not yet explored in my adult life. And I love the fact of like, I do feel like I'm challenging them. And I feel like they're meeting me, but it is this like, I feel really playful with it. And I'm happy to hear that because I think that they feel that way. And to just have that validation from you feels really good, that I think we're both aligned on where, like what our purpose is with one another. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I'm getting lots of chills on it. So it's like, yeah. Right. And it's, I mean, who knows what's meant to happen, right? And this is also a podcast, but it's also a way for you to grow and step into, further into this aspect of yourself, right? And really owning who you are, and this balance again of, masculine and feminine energy, and this person is going to continue to, step up. And it's not because they're necessarily, I don't know that they've ever been in a relationship or dated someone like you, right? So it's,
I get that sense they haven't.
Okay. All right.
Which is
good.
fun.
It's good for both of you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that was off topic, but that just kind of came in.
No, I like that. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And maybe play basketball. It's like playful, like not, it's like, just going to like a Skinner Park, right? And just doing that. All right.
Yeah. I mean, unless there was a direction you were going to take this, I'm so curious, Christina. At the start, you brought up that I'm probably going to have a second child, and you are now like the third person to tell me that. It's like it blows my mind, because I felt that way a couple years ago, and I'm divorced and been divorced for about two or 3 years, and I felt that way right afterwards. And now I'm like in this space where I was surprised to hear you say that, because I didn't feel like that was as much of a possibility anymore. But now to hear you call that in again, there's this part of me that wonders, like, do you have any sense of like timing of that? Or is it more just like a wait and see? Is it my child, or is it like someone else's child? Like, is there any clarity around there you can give me?
Well,
am I not supposed to know?
No. Well, first of all, I'm the worst at like giving time frame answers. And that is because everything can change, and everything does change, and it just depends, right? So I'm not the best person to answer about when it would happen. All I know is it is on the docket to happen. Like there's a soul that's supposed to be with you. And that's what I've picked up on. As far as, I wish I could go back and reverse this and think about what you said last, because I got something on it. Oh, wait, just let me go back on the track. Oh, is it yours? Thank you, Chris. That helped. Is it yours? Is it someone else's? You weren't very sure. I'm getting it's natural. Like naturally yours. But I could be wrong. Don't hold me to it. But I'm getting more natural. Like I kind of see a soul kind of just waiting for the entry point.
Yeah.
So, whenever or whatever that may be. Yes, Chris.
Beautiful. I feel like that's all I need to know.
Yep.
Okay. It's like, what I don't know is if I see you married and attached in that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything about that either. Just get that there's
Yeah, and I feel like that's right. Like, I don't know if marriage is in the cards for me anymore. Like, I'm very much looking for partnership.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't surprise me either. Maybe that's also why I've like decided perhaps another child is not in it for me, but to know, like, I do feel like partnership is something that I'm seeking, and the way it shows up is to be like determined by me and that person. So I'm curious to see how that all evolves. Cool.
All right. What's next?
Yeah, Robin.
Okay, yeah. So as long as we're talking about children, I do have my son right now, and he's about 5. And I've been feeling, I think some of the challenges of motherhood recently, in terms of like me being a mom in quarantine, because Chicago is very much still locked down, and now it's winter, and I've been feeling like a lot of heaviness around that. but at the flip side, like really enjoying our time together. And I've like thrown a lot of my rules out the window. Just like, let's just get through this. So is there anything about motherhood right now that I could benefit from hearing or trying on, or especially when it comes to like one, myself, but more importantly, my son and his growth and his development?
So I immediately got one of the things that the quarantine did do was brought you inward and made you stay present. So I keep hearing staying present. And on I'm getting that that's kind of the simplicity of it is staying present. That means the world to your son, even if he's too small and not very cognitively aware that that's what he needs, wants, and or enjoys for the most part. It really does help. So what you've been doing is enough and better than enough, because you've been very conscious about the decisions you make within it. You know, you try your best, and that's all you can do. So I'm getting some applause for that for you. And so give yourself a little credit, and just know that just by being present with him, it means a lot. And you know, when this is all said and done, I kind of get a visual of like Pop Goes the Weasel, you know, like a Jack in a Box. And it's like everybody's crammed in. And as soon as like, and it's like, woohoo! So there is going to be like a Pop Goes the Weasel moment, and you guys are both going to be like, we're free, and life will move on. But you know, in like 10 years, when he's 15, he's actually going to remember some of the moments, even though he like, you know, you don't remember much when you're 5, but he's going to remember that time when you guys were together. I actually remember some of the times when I was sick home from school when I was really young. And those are like the best times ever, because my mom was like attentive to me and like taking care of me, and she loved it and I loved it. And so it's very similar.
Oh, that feels really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And mine's aligned. So as you were asking the question, I saw you and Declan just like snuggled really, really close together on the couch, like watching a movie. And you're like, maybe you hadn't showered all day, right? Just like a lazy Sunday sort of like vibe to it. And like the blanket was one that like maybe like your grandmother or great grandmother would have stitched, right? And just laying underneath there and watching something together that you both kind of enjoy. And it was that moment, and we're never going to get this time back, right? And the experience of spending this level of time with a very present mother and you with him, I'll never forget it. I know you won't either, right? So it's just, you know, cherishing those moments, but just like there's nothing wrong with just grabbing each other, sitting on the couch, watching TV, and just being. And that feels really, really appropriate.
That feels really good to hear, because I think that I struggle a bit with the amount of screen time that he has access to, because I've always felt like we needed more play and more like interaction, especially with the young age that he's at. So even to just get permission to like sit on the couch and watch TV, like feels really light. I feel like I just really needed to hear like that's okay to do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was even something in the New York Times a couple of days ago that I read, because I have the same concern, you know, with Hudson, right? He'll have 3 screens going and yelling, and, you know, I mean, it's a whole thing. And there's no studies that exist that say having that much screen time negatively impacts someone's growth and behavior. Not yet, at least. I'll forward it to you. Will there be a withdrawal? Absolutely, because these constant dopamine hits are going to go away. But after that, they don't foresee a long-term impact, and these tools aren't going away either. So there will be this rebalancing or recalibration of technology and humanity, if you will. So we're all going through it for sure. But from what I'm reading and studying, there isn't necessarily a long-term effect so long as the pattern's broken when this all ends, and then there's better balance. But we're all in it together, that's for sure.
We definitely are. And that's so beautiful to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Definitely.
Go
for it.
Can I ask a question about like, so I feel like often my purpose is aligned with my work and the way that I live. And I like that those things are all related. Do you have any, and again, I think this is with me, like stepping kind of into a new space, and what is like my greater purpose, I suppose, in this lifetime, if you have any insight to that? And I do know that's a big question.
I got the word healer.
That's cool. I've been like, that is what I feel a big pull towards right now. And I think that there's a part of me that's like afraid to step into that zone because it's like, ooh, am I good enough? Do I really know what I'm doing? And that sort of thing. But I appreciate that you mentioned that, because that feels really relevant again right now. Just nailing it.
Yeah. And for those listening in, and Christina, I think I've shared this with you before as well, but when I was just doing some work with Robin one day, and like 20 minutes in, I was like, I think I'm just supposed to teach you how to do this. And so we just pivoted and we used Linda's pathway prayer process. And she, I think the first time she read my records, which was the last time, she saw, and I'd asked her a very specific question about what I was going to do with Meredith. And then she saw where it was. And she also saw this orange sun, which is the same orange sun that I had done when I was doing some traveling in the morning over the pyramids. I was like, yep, you're good. Like, like go forth and help. Right? Yeah.
I like to hear
very
that.
Special.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, congrats on doing that. And having such a great teacher such as Chris helps. So
I feel so fortunate about that, that I had no idea that's where our conversation was going to go. And thank you for, showing me that space in that world.
Thanks for showing up.
Mm-hmm. Are there other ways that I could be or should be learning how to do this outside of just practicing it? Like, I've been doing sessions with people that I trust and that I know, and those are going, in my opinion, fairly well. But I do feel like I'm ready for more of it. Mm-hmm. Is there another way that I can like call it into my life, or are there more things that I should be learning about in that world?
Well, when I'm going to take this back a little bit, but it's kind of related to what you're talking about now. Imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. You kind of have that peek in when you hear the word healer, or that's what you're supposed to do. So, the way you get better at that is to do it more, but it's actually a different story when you read other people, and then when you do creation and consulting yourself within the records. Mm-hmm. So I think the next step for you, if you really wanted to explore what it could do for your life, is to tap in for yourself for the purpose of guiding yourself to the next island of wonder, if that makes sense. What you're, creating, going through projects, creating them, imagining them, and using the records for that. And I will give you a little tip, because when I do readings for people and use the Akashic records, I do see a lot of visuals. I don't always understand what they mean. And all my job is to just tell it, right? Not necessarily understand it, because it's up to the other person to understand what I'm giving them, because it's for them, right? But when you're doing it yourself, there is an element of, maybe you're like, am I doing this right? Because sometimes it's not even a conversation. It's an energy. It's a feeling. Mm-hmm. It's a sudden like an aha moment, where that things are, you have to trust first that things are happening. But then there's a point where you're like, oh, I know that was given to me. I know that I was being supported. So try that out. I don't know if you already have, but see how they can work for you, and how, asking the records, how can I best serve as the person I am? What's the next step? What can I be doing? Let's create some classes. Let's create some new things, and sitting with that.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I do the records for myself fairly regularly, but I don't think I'm as specific as you're telling me to be. And so I love that, especially now that I have these things that you've given me of like classes or projects to like really go in and see like what it looks like and what it feels like, and to just trust that.
Yes. And then sometimes even it might help to go into the records when you're asking if something would work for people. Because again, if you're coming from a healing standpoint, as a human, you question what's going to happen to the people that actually go through it, that you lead through it. But it's kind of almost a cheat sheet. You can ask if this will work for the kind of people that are going to be attracted to the class. Is it going to be effective, and things like that. So it's a good cheat sheet in a way.
Cool. That's helpful.
And a way that I'll do that is, so there's like the problem and the solution, right? So it's like a problem statement, and then you're nibbling on it. So, and me being in my own records has been a challenge. And it's just taking time. It was like me going into someone else's records is like, oh my God, that worked. And then it felt very natural. But for myself, and then it is a little bit of imposter syndrome for sure. But it's like, well, but this is the same voice I've been hearing, like the same things that have been going on since I was a kid. So like, it's hard to trust that. And then is it me, or is it channeled or inspired? I'm not entirely sure. And so this happened in a meditation just the other night and I was like, and I all of a sudden just ended up in this void, and I'm sitting there, and it's like, well, what would you like to know? I'm like, oh, and I said, well, I guess I would like to know this, but I don't know if I'm going to get an answer. And like, well, just imagine that you're going to get an answer. And I was like, okay. And I did it, and I imagined it, and it was like, see, that was easy. And it's like, oh, you've been here the whole time? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, so this mental imagery and being able to kind of like create the problem and imagine it and feel it and live it and create it energetically. And then you just kind of erase that screen, right? It's like, just get like an energetic eraser and then change it and say, okay, so let's look at possible solutions or scenarios. What does it look like if this? What would it look like if this, to Christina's point? So imagination is probably the biggest driver behind me having more confidence when I'm doing my own work. Sometimes words just come in, I just write them down, and then it doesn't really sound like my voice, but the imagery is something that I've been playing with, and I found that to be pretty helpful.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I am also, on just like an aside, I can't wait for you to do a retreat or something. I'm in whenever that happens.
Good. Well, I'll talk to you both off the screen about that for sure. The one that will actually lead would likely be summer equinox. Give time for COVID or vaccines, and going to play that out. At least out in the summer, we're outside. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, of course. Mm-hmm. In time, all in good time, right?
What is time?
Yes. I don't know.
Time is out there. We're timeless.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
So keep asking questions.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of the topics that's coming to me, and I don't know that I have a question about it as more, I just want to discuss it, is over the last year or two, the female friendships have been so incredibly important to me, and something I've put a lot of energy behind, and something that I want to continue to manifest and to flourish and all of those things. And I remember one time Chris did a reading for me, and you told me, and I asked for my grandmother just like very randomly, I don't know why. And then you told me that she wanted me to understand how important friendships were. Oh. And I don't know that I ever shared this with you, but you told me that, and about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was sitting with her at dinner, And I just had asked her a question of like, Grandma, if there's something that you wanted to leave us with, some piece of advice, because I love questions like that, what would it be? And she was like, the importance of friendships. And I was like, whoa. Woo!
Wow.
So that was really cool.
Wow.
But
Thanks for sharing
that feels like something I'm being really like pulled towards. And is there more that I could be doing with that? Like even in like beyond my female friendships, like women's circles or like, I don't know, something related to that. Is there anything that you're getting from the records about that general topic?
Miss King.
Yes, I'm getting, it doesn't really matter, except the fact that you need to kind of not be so rigid and have a little bit more fun. So whatever that does, or whatever helps you do that, that's what you should do. Right now it's a little flat because of COVID, because I've seen like you joining some online little wine groups where you guys are sipping wine and, it's just screen. It's more of like, almost like you would respond better in a more of a like physical presence kind of thing, which is not very hard right now. So right now it would be very flat, but you can still do it. But I'm seeing actually anything competition. So even like, I don't know, something competitive and just fun and simple, maybe like a board game club or like a certain night where you guys play bunco or something where you can do something, not just sit around and talk about your kids and your husbands all the day, even though that might be appealing at some point, but it's like you deal with that enough. It's like you just need something to do with other people. So I don't know, a hiking club of some sort where, think about the kind of women that you respond to the most. Like, are they active? And I'm getting a yes. So active women who are big presences in their community, who are kind of large and in charge, but also have a feminine side about them. And like those kind of women, I feel are great vibrations for you to kind of be surrounded by, because you feed off that energy and you can also have a lot of fun with that kind of group.
And similar to my work in my state, what I'm feeling is that you're not meant to have all the answers, right? Because you are very creative. And I know this is a frustrating answer because just tell me what to do, right? Tell me what to fucking do. But part of it is the exploration. And it's like, come on, follow me. Let's just go figure it out. And that is going to give people freedom that they need. There is a lot of rigidity in walls and in being enclosed. And while we have a natural tendency to want to put order to things, removing that burden of responsibility from yourself and from others is actually very freeing and will energetically draw the right group of women to you. And it's like, yeah, come on, we're just going to go play and figure it out. And out of that becomes this, really powerful group and community. Like, let's just go play. And competition, I'm glad that you got that word, Christina, because competition to me kind of feels like a dirty word right now. I mean, just in general, it's like, well, there's like win-win, but you can challenge each other and have fun doing that and not look at the negative connotation from the word compete, because then there's a winner and a loser, right? And I think you can even lose a board game and still have fun, right? You could lose a basketball game with someone that you're courting or someone that you're hanging out with, and it's like, come on, try and steal the ball. And like, even though you don't necessarily know how to play basketball, which makes more sense now, I mean, though you sort of do, it's like you're putting yourself out there and trying something new and something that you don't have expertise in, and still challenging someone to meet you where you are.
Yeah, I like that. And I love games, like even just board games. I find them very fun. And I do feel like I'm a fairly competitive person, So I like both of those things and the way that you broke that down, as well as activity. I do also, to piggyback on that, I feel like I do feel a lot of rigidity in my life, whether that's because I've chosen this space as a leader running my own business. I find that I have a lot of responsibility.
Mhm.
And then sometimes when I get that space for freedom, it turns into more like recklessness because I have so much rigidity over here that I'm really trying to figure out like where that balance is and how to find that balance, so that I'm really like playing in the middle.
Okay, so I have several notes for you. Two that came up while Chris was talking, and one that just came up as you were speaking. And one is don't do anything that you are in charge of for leisure. Don't start a group. And then the second note is something where you can just show up.
Mhm.
And you have nothing to do with it. Maybe you join a wine group that wants you, like a potluck, or, where you can show up with a dish and that's it. Like something where you just show up, you don't have to clean, and you can leave anytime kind of deal. So that is a great balance for you. But I
Mhm.
want to talk about the word balance, because as you were speaking, I got like a cringy, because you were like, oh, I'm so rigid in this side. Sometimes I go too reckless and I just want to find the balance. There's like an element of control there that's kind of missing the plot. If you know what I'm saying, yeah, there's some recklessness that needs to be had. I mean, it's not like you're going out to, hey guys, let's get drunk and rob a bank. It's not like that. It's a different kind of reckless. And so to put pressure on yourself is like, okay, what does the playful structure look like? It's kind of like, that's not the point. It's kind of like you just kind of show up to something that might be a little bit maybe intimidating at first or something,
Mhm.
like a trapeze group or whatever, where, and you just don't, the advice is don't try to frame it. Don't try to be like, okay, how does this fit in my life? Just go do it and just ask yourself, do I like it or not? If it's a hell yeah, I want to do it again, go back. If it's a it was fine to try, then maybe move on to something else.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. I like
So
just
good.
showing up to things. I love that idea.
Yeah, that feels very freeing.
Yeah, especially maybe for a personality like you, you're always used to being in charge. And it's like, here, give me that. I'll just, work this. I've structured stuff before. Okay. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how did I get in this spot? I'm hosting. I'm in charge of oh, I'll be in charge of the phone tree. It's like, what? No, nope. I want nothing to do with any of it. You just tell me what time to be there. I'll show up. And if somebody's there, great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect. Yeah, and there's a couple of things that are coming to my mind, so I can't wait to see what shows up there. Yeah.
Do you ever go on Meetup?
I don't. No, but I definitely should.
Yeah, go on Meetup right now. A lot of things are virtual, which is fine, but they have all kinds of clubs. If you want to learn a language, if you want to go study some Bible or Quran, or if you want to join a hiking group. I used to play volleyball. I wanted to join this volleyball league, this beach volleyball league, but they were just so serious. They were like, if you are not in shape and haven't been playing for the past year, please don't come. And I was like, wow, so you get all kinds. There's singles groups on there. There are all kinds of things. So go on to Meetup and just look around. I mean, that's Christina's note. That's not theirs.
Cool.
You have more questions, Robin?
I mean, I can always think of more questions, unless there was something coming to you. I just wanted to give space. It looked like you might have said something.
No. As I want to talk a little bit about, because I think there's some information that we could share around you being in the Akashic records and different avenues, or perhaps even different islands that would be good to explore. And it feels like, and not that there's anxiety around it, but it's like, okay, and there's, that there's more there, and you just don't necessarily, and it feels like some direction would be good. Like, have you considered this, or this? Right. Is that accurate?
Yes, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Definitely.
And so you're doing readings for others as well, right? As you had mentioned. And Christina, chime in if anything comes up here, as far as like some tips or some coaching.
Will do.
How do you feel about not seeing masters, teachers, and loved ones?
As in, if nothing comes to me, or I don't know that I ever like see them. Sometimes I just check in, I'm like, are you there? And I'll just like feel my body move a certain way. I'm like, okay, they're here, and I
Yeah.
trust that, but I certainly don't feel like I see them as beings around me.
Okay.
I'm trying to trust that. I think sometimes for me, when the not seeing is like, if somebody asks me a question and getting like nothing makes me feel incompetent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. And so I don't know. I've never seen this library with the big book. I don't know that I've ever actually seen like on a regular basis when I go into the records and all of a sudden like this like choir shows up and like, how can we be of service today? And it really is energy that you're communicating with. And so for you to feel like some sort of a sensation is probably an even better sign than to see something in a way. So for me, like originally I would get like poked, right? And then my eyes start tearing up. I was talking about this with Christina yesterday. I start yawning because I'm making more space. And these are just things that kind of happen. But to trust that. And so it's good that you're able to recognize that and to know that that's actually okay, because it is energy. We're energy, right? And we're really just kind of putting our antenna up there and trying to understand what's happening and what's going on. The records themselves, from what I sense, are just limitless. And using that particular prayer process is very specific and very narrow. So it's a great way to get in and learn and to practice. But it feels to me like there's a better way for you to access even quicker. And when you understand what that vibration feels like, that energetic shift for you, and then you're kind of in there. So using that process or that invocation is a safe way to get in. And it's even more so about the protection of the other person that you're working with, because you're bringing their energy into it as well. Right. So if you ever feel conflicted about it, it's as much, if not more so for them than it is for you.
Okay.
And then once I came to understand that, it's like, okay. And then I just like a lot more opened up, because it's like, well, I don't necessarily believe in this or this or this or this word. There's some PTSD around, the word Holy Spirit. Like, what is, I don't, and to set that aside a little bit and then be able to just feel it is probably the surest signs that I've ever had that I'm on track. Is that helpful?
That is. And I think it aligns with what we were talking about being rigid versus just like that space for like trust and play, right? And like feeling the energy more so. So yeah, I do find that helpful and even validating of more of what I'm sensing versus what I'm saying. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's limitless and boundless, right? And so it's helpful to have some ideas and notions, because the words and how we infuse these words with energy can take us into certain directions, but anything is possible. So where I find the most peace and calm is when I close my eyes and I go into that void, and there's nothing else to compare it, that one-eyed version to. I can't see an end over here out of the left. I can't see an end here to the top or to the right. And so using that as like a mental cue that anything and everything is there and possible makes more sense. It's been really helpful for me. Of course, I have tons of books and reading that I'm, I work with, and I read a book like 20 pages. And I'm like, okay, I got this. And then I move on to the next bit. And it's more like validating the experience than it is creating doubt. It's like, okay, so I need these books and these texts to prove to me why what I'm experiencing is right, not looking to the books or the texts or the methods or processes to be right, if that makes sense. Like if it feels right, then that's right for me. And it doesn't mean that it's not right for someone else or right for someone else. Christina, do you have anything to add here?
I don't actually. No, that
Okay.
was I feel like that was tapping into what she really needed to hear. And then I kind of got that because you taught her how to access it. It was like better off like said by you, because you're kind of the teacher who passed it on to her. So I didn't really get anything additional. Good job.
Okay. All right. Well, there's so much more.
Mhm.
And I feel like you and I need to formalize how we go about doing that.
I would love that.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I'm really feeling like I want like I consider you my mentor, but like that direction and guidance would feel really good to me.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Put
Thank you.
yes. Yeah. And just the more I've played with it and the more I realize that it is limitless, and you can, well, we'll save it maybe for another podcast, but there's a lot more there. And I think now that you're kind of comfortable, and I want to say bored with this, but now it's like, well, what if it happens if I go left, or what happens if I go straight, or what happens if I go right and stick my foot out over here? What's going to happen? And I think we can help
Thank
each
you.
other for sure. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Sorry. This is just a
That was a wonderful tangent.
You're wonderful.
Oh, so are you. Both of you. I feel so special being with you guys. Okay. Other areas of my life that would be fun to talk about. I feel like we covered a lot of them. The one that's coming to my head now is yoga and my business in particular. And just, I feel like I have direction on what it is I need to be doing or not need to be doing. Like I'm feeling this pull towards a lot of co-creation and collaboration. So I can even take more of a step away, but like it needs to exist and it will exist. And this community that I've created is so incredibly important, but having less responsibility and letting it just thrive kind of on its own is what I feel really pulled towards right now. Is that, you're nodding your head. So like, that feels good. Is there like specifics in terms of like how to do that? Or is it mostly like my inner self?
I'm going to jump in here really quick, Christina. So I think the first time you and I spent time together in this way, and it was really around how do you define community and in building a community at BFPY and being much more than yoga. And I didn't want to bring this up. And it was just figured I'd save it for like after the podcast. But now that you brought it up, it feels like now it's almost like some aspects of it are a burden for you. And it's like, okay, it's like, I want to be able to just like shed this, if you will, and go explore and create and continue to evolve. And so it certainly is right to think that like you're much more than a yoga studio owner for sure. And I know you know that. And it's really tied back into like even what you were talking about with the vision board and starting to pull these things together. And it's I'll ask you, what gets you excited? What are some of the like the adjectives or the verbs that where it's like, if I'm doing this, then I light the fuck up. Like
when it comes to like my work and like this topic in particular, or just
anything in general.
Like, I love people. Like I love collaborations. And that's what I'm feeling like right now. Of like all these teachers, I'm like, yeah, I want to work with you. Yeah, I want to work with you. This is really fun. And just like doing things like that feels really good. I I don't know, people is just the word that keeps coming to my mind. And, you know,
Mhm.
sometimes managing people is one of the things that also feels like a burden, but I think one can be like the best of one, but also come with its own challenges, right? So
Mhm.
maybe it's more of like the collaborations and the co-creations that I'm finding really exciting right now. Um, yeah, that's what's been lighting me up a lot in the last like 2 weeks.
So what happens when you collaborate? I mean, beyond inspiring yourself, like what is it about that? What's the emotion or the feeling that's attached to it?
I think it's like the bringing of people together. Even,
Mm.
and maybe it's even like I don't feel like all of the responsibility lies on me. It's like I see how great some of these people are and I'm like, man, you teach great arm balances. Like I would love for you to do that and I would love to work with you on that to like help elevate them as well. But then like I'm gaining so much from that too. And then
Mhm.
it just feels fun and like really playful. And I love the word play. Like when I get to play, that's so fun. Like I love going to this climbing gym and playing on the slack line because it's like, it's just so fun. Yeah.
Mhm. Christina.
So I got that yoga is really going to explode soon. I mean, it already kind of has, but like because that's going to be kind of the you know how like there's like I'm seeing a visual of like a really crazy water slide that maybe like you didn't expect to go down. And it's like everybody went through the water slide and nobody can see. You just hear the screams. And then all of a sudden something shoots out. It's like after the shoot out, it's like going to be like, and then everybody's going to be like, everybody's more introspective now. Everybody's more meditative and yoga is going to be an industry that's going to be popping. So I do see your head down for a little while on that. Like as soon as everything kind of starts opening again, you're just going to be kind of like working hard on making sure that all of the things that you offer are what is needed. And you're going to actually feel very fun with that. Like feel like even though you're going to be very, 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 very busy, it's going to be very worthwhile because you're like, oh, finally something different than being like the way we were. So you're going to, and again, you're creating things as well during the middle of that. So that's going to be good. Have you invited guest movement classes into your space before?
I have like when we were open
Yeah.
prior to COVID, definitely, but not since we've been mostly virtual.
Of course, of course. Yeah. So I just see that, you know, inviting non-yoga type movement in as like into the community. I hear like as like, hey guys, we got a burlesque teacher coming in next week.
Mhm.
Get out your sexy clothes and come on in. And this is a no shame, no guilt class. You come in, we're all going to do some burlesque. Let's go. You know, like those kinds of things
It's
where
kind of
it's
like
like,
sign me the fuck up for that.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, I want to go to this burlesque class. Like, sign me up too. I think there's something for like, but I'm like, wow, yeah, this is for all of us. But you know, something that is still movement, but a very positive movement. So while you were talking about what excites you about collaborations, I also got it's the aha moments. It's the release that you see in people that excites you too. So it's like you help facilitate this introduction to like this big burst of something that's going to be positive for somebody else. And you're like, oh, I love it. So that's also, I heard what really you like the introduction that you can do, you know, you like bringing it together.
Yes. Yes. That does light me up for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you, but it is one of the reasons why I'm grateful for you and the community. And so Christina, I think when I first met Robin, I mean, I was probably training for CrossFit or I was in like Parashape. Maybe it was like pre that or something. Yeah, I think maybe it was like pre all that and walked in and I remember being in Shavasana. So I used to compete. Like, I mean, I would like be in yoga, like I'm going to outplank this person or I'm going to stay inside. Like, I mean, it was awful, right? Like, oh, okay, I beat that person. It took me a while to get there. So it was like a journey when I walked in as just like typical Chicago white guy. And the journey. And I remember being in Shavasana one time and laying there and my brain with the ADHD is never like the thoughts are just always there and the brain's always churning. And somehow I found some quiet. And what I saw was like this image of a bear. And it said, well, a bear is always a bear. You can't change its nature. And I was like, where did that voice come from? And I was like, what the hell? But it set something off in me. Right. And it's like, okay, there's more of that. So like, how do I find more of that calm and more of that quiet to open up this? Well, and now look at our relationship. Right. And it's not solely attributed to that experience, but it played such a seminal role in my own awakening and my own journey toward enlightenment or enlightened states or altered states, that there is something really powerful about what Christina shared, and being able to provide all these different pathways and all these different opportunities for people to get to know themselves a little bit better. And how do you find yourself? And using physical yoga as a way to perhaps open that up a little bit. So it is maybe even like a bit of a reframe. It's like, yes, I mean, like yoga is the gateway drug, but soon we're going to give you a little bit of this, and maybe you'll find some peace. You'll be able to be more centered, more balanced. It's going to be different for everyone. And not that you don't perceive it this way, but it could be a slight reframe, you know, when things do open back up. And really the overarching mission is what, like find your bliss or find yourself or whatever. Like, what does BFPY truly stand for? And maybe that reframe helps drive some of the collaboration and the innovation, the community, the aspects, the outings, the gatherings, and you collaborating and connecting with people and just helping them remember who they are, right? Ultimately. Yeah, there's something there.
That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. Like, I think especially with all of this that we've gone through, you touched on it a little earlier about like all the inner work and how people are more meditative now. And it just feels like people are kind of shifting their space where, you know, I think yoga is so much more than just like the physical practice. And perhaps now in the West, we are like finally ready to like really go there. And that to me feels exciting, you know? So I love that idea of kind of like considering like, what is Bare Feet's purpose? Like, what doors are we opening for people? And that little bit of reframe, that's very helpful. That gives me like, that makes me feel like very inspired to go do something.
It's what you do. So I know we're bumping towards the top of the hour and you've got to pick up Declan. Is there a remaining question or anything that's top of mind that you would want to get out of this episode?
No, I feel like I got so much. If there's anything else that's like, if you get a final hit that you feel like sharing, that would feel good to me. Otherwise, I feel very complete.
Outstanding. Christina, anything else?
The only thing I get is off like a rocket.
Yeah, it's fun being in her records.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys. I mean, this was really fun for me too. Such a cool experience.
Thank you.
Well, I'm honored, and I'd like to thank Chris for bringing you around, because I definitely enjoyed it and enjoyed you and enjoyed everything around you. So thank you, Robin.
Oh, same,
So,
right back at you.
Robin, if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
You can find me at my yoga studio, which is barefeetpoweryoga.com. You can follow us on Instagram, or if you want to reach out to me directly, I am Barefeet Robin, or Robin at barefeetpoweryoga.com for email.
Yeah, show me your feet.
Yeah, and
right
I would
now,
love to. Nope, I got it on. And we are, and if I can just do maybe a slight more of a plug. So we are doing virtual classes right now, and we're going to plan to continue doing those ongoing. I have wonderful teachers. We do specialize in power yoga, but we have a variety of class offerings. So there definitely is something for anybody. Whether you're brand new to yoga or you've been practicing for years, we even do free meditations twice a week, which is really cool. So you can check out our schedule. And if you, I guess my readings too, that's more of an individual thing. So shoot me an email if that feels like something that you would be compelled to do. I would love that opportunity as well. And thank you guys again for having me on and for letting me plug my businesses. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Always
Robin.
a pleasure.
And Chris, love ya. Mwah. Thank you so
Love you
much.
both.